Now at 11, an assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. The latest update on his condition, plus a look at the chaos as it unfolded at his rally in Pennsylvania.
We huddled as soon as we got to the ground. We started praying immediately.
And our national, state, and local leaders offering their well wishes to Trump.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick.
A look at what this means for public safety at political events and the election going forward.
What the president's team is going to say, let the show go on.
KOMO News at 11 starts now.
New video just in shows former President Trump getting off of his plane in New Jersey just hours after an assassination attempt killed one person. The chaos in Pennsylvania sent shockwaves across the nation. Former President Trump left bloody after a shooter opened fire at that campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Good evening. I'm Michelle Esteban.
And I'm Preston Phillips. Here's what we know right now. Just moments ago, law enforcement identified the gunman as 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks of Bethel Park, Pennsylvania. According to the Associated Press, he fired from a rooftop less than 164 yards away, about a football field and a half away from where President Trump was standing. He was then shot and killed by Secret Service. One person attending the rally was shot and killed. Two others were critically hurt. No motive has been identified yet.
And I think that once the shooter is identified, anyone that has specific information on that shooter, that would be very helpful as well to help us assess motive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we are absolutely not taking for granted that this was a lone wolf attack.
Former President Trump's presidential campaign confirms he will be attending the RNC convention in Milwaukee. That starts on Monday.
Tonight, we have team coverage for you on this assassination attempt. Our crews are standing by to tell us how our local leaders are reacting, what this means for public safety and the election going forward. But we want to start tonight with national correspondent Kayla Gaskins.
She joins us from Capitol Hill with what we know about this developing situation.
Donald Trump releasing a statement in the hours after the attack, saying he was shot by a bullet that pierced his upper ear. He also thanked the Secret Service for their action and gave condolences to the rally attendee who died. Trump's campaign confirmed the former president is fine and that he was checked out at a local medical facility. A political rally turned into a crime scene.
This is a big crowd. This is a big, beautiful crowd.
As the former president spoke to his supporters in Butler, Pennsylvania Saturday, gunshots ripped through the air. Donald Trump seen reaching for his ear before dropping to the ground. Secret Service immediately rushing the stage to surround him. Screams heard in the crowd. After a few tense moments, the former president on his feet. Blood spattered across his cheek and ear. Trump giving a fist bump as Secret Service whisked him away to the hospital. The Associated Press reporting the shooter is dead, along with one rally attendee. President Biden spoke to Trump following the shooting and earlier condemned the violence.
There's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick.
Republican House Majority Leader Steve Scalise was shot in 2017 by a left-wing activist. On Saturday, Scalise writing, "For weeks, Democrat leaders have been fueling ludicrous hysteria that Donald Trump winning re-election would be the end of democracy in America. Clearly, we've seen far-left lunatics act on violent rhetoric in the past. This incendiary rhetoric must stop." We spoke with a Trump supporter who was 6 rows from the stage.
Just a sad day for America. Just a really sad day for America. The vibe was, it was open with prayer. People were united. This is America. This is freedom, regardless of your politics.
This rally was supposed to be a celebratory moment for Trump heading into the GOP convention in Milwaukee that starts Monday. The convention will no doubt have a very different feel with tighter security now on tap in the wake of Saturday's shooting. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
Kayla, thanks very much. No details have been released about the phone call between President Biden and Donald Trump. The president is back at the White House tonight. He will convene a briefing with Homeland Security and law enforcement officials tomorrow morning.
Here in Washington state, we're getting local reaction from voters. Some are expressing that this is an eye-opener about just how divided this country is. KOMO's Karina Vargas live tonight in Seattle. Karina, what have people been telling you?
Well, Preston, people tell me that violence is never the answer, no matter one's political affiliation. Now, some tell me that they think that this will only further the country, that they will further divide the country, but others say that they hope that this might bring people together. Now, take a listen at some of their reactions.
We saw it. We were actually looking at television right at the time, and it was just like shock. Absolute shock, and just...
Well, pretty shocking that there's an assassination attempt on a presidential candidate.
Just shocking, honestly. I never thought like that. This day and age, that something like that would happen.
Now, those we talked to say that their votes are set and that this is not changing how they will be voting in November. Now, the big concern that many are having is safety at the polls, and some tell me that they hope that this will evoke a lot more security measures. For now, reporting in Seattle, Karina Vargas, KOMO News.
Certainly underscoring the divisive rhetoric. Karina, thank you. There will certainly be consequences for the upcoming election cycle. Today's shooting will lead to a reassessment of political events and rallies all across the country and right here. KOMO's Paul Rivera joins us now live with what we're expecting to see in the next few days. Paul, such a concerning moment here.
Yeah, and it has certainly been mentioned before, but we'll mention it again. Security certainly going to increase at these high-profile events moving forward. Tonight, we talked with someone who has worked in that field before. We're asking them also, how could something like this have happened? We're also going to hear from our political analyst about the ramifications of this moving forward. Jim Fuda now leads Crime Stoppers, but he worked for years with the King County Sheriff's Office, and at the time he was in Special Operations and a liaison for Secret Service. So what happened with the security protocols before the assassination attempt on former President Trump? Was there a way to prevent this?
There are they call them counter snipers up, looking at the crowd, looking at the surrounding areas, and from what I heard on the news is that the shooter had not been up on the roof for very long, just minutes. Should he have been spotted? I don't know. I'm not going to Monday night quarterback that because I wasn't there and the investigation is nowhere near as complete.
What happens now?
I would think some of it's going to get a little tighter. They'll spread out a little further. There'll be other agencies, local, depending on where they go, that they'll require more assets.
But it is clear a full reassessment of protocols will be happening, and work will happen here locally. Do you think the conversations within the law enforcement community have already started?
Oh, absolutely.
What would they be talking about?
What happens if this happens here? Same thing what happened in 9/11, and agencies from all over the United States went to New York to see what happened and see how their area could do it better.
We also talked with KOMO political analyst Ron Dotzauer. What's your final message to voters, to Americans, in what is a very difficult day?
Continue as best you can to stay engaged, okay? We have to show people around the world that this is not acceptable behavior in this country or anywhere else. And we can show that by participating.
Our local and state law enforcement sent me statements. The King County Sheriff's Office told us today this is all under consideration. They say they'll respond to our local events as necessary. WSP told me they are maintaining their focus and their readiness. We'll send it back to you.
Paul, thanks very much. New tonight, both Washington State Party chairs condemning the violence.
Two gubernatorial candidates are also reflecting on their safety at campaign events. KOMO senior reporter Chris Daniels joins us in studio with what they're saying tonight. Chris?
Well, they all agreed, the people that I talked to, that we need to dial down the rhetoric on a night like tonight.
I'm not even shocked, Chris. I think it's more like dread.
Washington GOP Chairman Jim Walsh in Milwaukee and preparing for the Republican National Convention pointed blame at the country's political tenor.
I believe we need to move away from talking about personalities and saying someone is a bad person because we disagree with them politically. And we need to focus on the policies that elected officials advocate.
I'm just sort of disappointed and sad that this is happening in our great country.
Republican gubernatorial candidate Dave Reichert speaking via Zoom before a campaign event.
My head is always on a swivel. My staff is always watching.
He raised questions about the security at the Trump rally and said he had a close call during his time in Congress.
I think that what we need to do is get back to respecting each other's opinion, being able to understand that we have the right to express those opinions and respect each other.
I don't choose to talk much about sort of threats that I receive or my family receives. That's just sort of a personal choice. But you know, my kids are very aware. You know, of the situation, and that's a very unfortunate side of politics.
Democrat Bob Ferguson is also running for governor. I know that on the campaign trail, you've talked about protecting Washington State from a potential Trump presidency. Do you think now about words and political rhetoric as we move forward?
Well, I don't just think about them now after sort of a cowardly attack. During my time as Attorney General and Donald Trump was president, we settled our disagreements in a courtroom, which I think is the right way to do it. It was legal briefs.
Walsh said plans were canceled tonight in Milwaukee, but that everything is still a go for the start of the RNC on Monday. Washington State Democratic Party Chair Shasti Conrad tweeted that the state Democrats, quote, condemn political violence in the strongest of terms. Violence has no place in our democracy. Back to you.
Chris, thank you. We will go back to Butler, Pennsylvania after that gunfire erupted at Trump's rally, and we will hear from people who heard and saw the chaos unfold.
Our coverage of this historic breaking news and assassination attempt on former President Trump continues right after this.
All we know was shots were fired, and then I jumped over the barrier and put my hand on the guy's head that was profusely bleeding.
That's how one witness who was covered in blood, there you can see it on his shirt, described the moment he jumped in to help one of the shooting victims during today's assassination attempt on former President Trump. If you were just joining us, Trump was shot in his right ear at a campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Secret Service shot and killed that shooter. One person was also killed, 2 others more seriously hurt. Jonathan O'Halloran from our sister station in Pennsylvania is outside the hospital with an update on this chaotic day.
Good evening. Just a little while ago, we arrived here at Butler Memorial Hospital that you can see right behind me here. We were on the other side of that building where it is just flooded with Secret Service members. We were told that we had to move to the other side of the hospital, and that's where you can find us right now. We're told that just a little while ago that this parking lot was flooded with supporters who were coming to see what the condition of the former president was. Those people have since left since just a short time ago. President Trump stepped away. We spoke with a few of the people who did remain here just a short time ago.
So I was at Preston Park, about a mile away from where the shooting happened. I heard the shots. I was on the phone with my uncle. I heard the initial shots. I knew they were rifle shots. And then I heard the return fire. And then my uncle said, President Trump just got shot.
This isn't something that I want my kids to see. This is something that's going to go down in history and not in a positive light.
As you just heard, residents here in Butler are devastated at an event that has brought their small town worldwide publicity, and not for a good reason. At this point, we're told that the president has been moved from Butler Hospital here right behind us. At this point, things are very quiet right now. We'll continue to bring you the latest on this investigation. I'll send it back to you.
Thanks very much. The New York Police Department is increasing patrols around Trump Tower in New York out of an abundance of caution after the former president was shot in the ear at his Pennsylvania rallies. We've been telling you there is no word of any specific threats to Trump aside from that close call. The Secret Service says Trump is safe.
Former President Trump's Pennsylvania rally was in deep red territory. Butler County has nearly 140,000 registered voters. 57% are Republicans, roughly 28% are Democrats, with most of the rest independent or other. The attack on former President Trump makes him the first sitting or former president to be injured in an assassination attempt in over 40 years. The last was Ronald Reagan in 1981. White House Press Secretary James Brady was seriously injured in that attack and died in 2014 from complications related to the injury. The last presidential candidate injured in an assassination attempt was Alabama Governor George Wallace, who was shot 4 times while running for president in 1972.
We are getting a whole host, take a look, of reactions from political leaders in Washington state and all around the country for that matter. That includes all of the living former presidents. Barack Obama said this, quote, "There is absolutely no place for political violence in our democracy. Although we don't yet know exactly what happened, we should all be relieved that former President Trump was not seriously hurt." Here locally, Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell posted on X, quote, "This act of political violence is disturbing and unacceptable in our country. Thank you to the Secret Service and all the first responders who quickly secured the scene." Washington Senator Pramila Jayapal posted, "The United States is a democracy. Political violence of any kind is completely unacceptable, and I am horrified by the events in Pennsylvania today."
Our coverage on this historic attack on former President Trump continues here on KOMO TV and online at KOMOnews.com. Stay with us for updates and further developments tomorrow morning on KOMO Morning News.